The Menendez brothers, Parole denied, a true crime story that still haunts America. In the pantheon of American true crime, few names provoke as much debate, fascination, and raw emotion as those of Lyle and Erik Menendez. For over 3 decades, their story has existed at the uneasy intersection of family tragedy, wealth, abuse, and cold-blooded murder. The Beverly Hills mansion where the horror began is gone, but the echoes of shotgun blasts from August 20, 1989, still linger in public memory. This year, 2025, the brothers once again entered the headlines. Both men, now middle-aged and decades into their life sentences, appeared separately before California parole boards. For supporters, it was a moment of hope. Perhaps society would finally recognize them as victims of abuse who had already paid their debt to society. For others, it was a grim reminder that no matter how many years pass, the savagery of their crime cannot be undone. Within 48 hours, the outcome was decided. Erik Menendez denied parole. Lyle Menendez denied parole the following day. It was not the ending their advocates wanted, but for many, it was the only just outcome. To understand why, we must return to where this story began. Beverly Hills in the late 1980s represented the very heart of American wealth and privilege. The Menendez family, with its sprawling Mediterranean-style mansion on Elm Drive, seemed to embody this world. José Menendez, a Cuban immigrant who rose from humble beginnings, was a powerhouse in the entertainment industry, serving as an executive at Live Entertainment. His wife, Kitty, was a former beauty queen and devoted mother. On the surface, they were living the American dream. But behind those ornate gates, a nightmare brewed. That Sunday evening, José and Kitty settled in their den to watch television. Upstairs, their sons, Lyle, 21, and Erik, 18, prepared for something unspeakable. Armed with 12-gauge shotguns purchased earlier that summer, they entered the den and unleashed a storm of violence. The attack was methodical and merciless. José was shot point-blank in the head, nearly decapitating him. Kitty, panicked and trying to flee, was struck by multiple blasts, her body riddled with wounds. The carnage was so severe that investigators initially struggled to identify the victims. Then came the deception. The brothers dialed 911, their voices frantic and staged. "Somebody killed my parents," Lyle cried. "They shot them." At first, it seemed like a home invasion, a tragic but all too familiar story in Los Angeles. But beneath the surface, detectives sensed something was off. The Menendez brothers did not retreat into grief. Instead, within days, they began spending lavishly. Lyle purchased a Rolex watch, a Porsche, and a restaurant in Princeton, New Jersey. Erik hired a personal tennis coach and indulged in luxury shopping. Together, they burned through nearly $700,000 in just a few months. For detectives, the question became unavoidable. Who benefits from the death of José and Kitty Menendez? The answer increasingly pointed back to their sons. In the immediate aftermath of the murders, Beverly Hills police had little reason to suspect the 2 surviving members of the family. A brutal double homicide in such an affluent neighborhood seemed likely to be the work of organized crime, a professional hit, or a burglary gone wrong. But detectives were troubled by 2 details. The excessive violence. Most contract killings are quick and efficient. The slaughter of José and Kitty was overkill, literally. Multiple shots, reloading, bodies left in a horrific state. This wasn't the work of a stranger trying to cover tracks. It felt personal. The brothers' behavior. Grief didn't seem to weigh them down. Instead, in the days following the murders, Lyle and Erik launched into a spending spree that was impossible to ignore. They dined at expensive restaurants, bought luxury cars, and even went on overseas trips. Detectives noted that rather than conserving the family fortune, they were burning through it. Within a month, the Menendez brothers spent nearly $500,000. Lyle moved into a swanky condo in Marina del Rey and poured money into a chain of restaurants he hoped to franchise. Erik, once a promising tennis player, threw himself into lessons and tournaments, even hiring a full-time coach. Neighbors whispered about the audacity. Friends grew suspicious. But still, there was no direct evidence linking the brothers to the crime. What broke the case open wasn't forensic evidence. It was a confession. The Menendez brothers began seeing a Beverly Hills psychologist, Dr. Jerome Oziel. Erik, in particular, struggled with the weight of what they had done. During a session, he broke down and admitted to murdering his parents. Oziel's mistress, troubled by what she overheard, reported the confession to police. With that, the illusion shattered. On March 8, 1990, Lyle was arrested outside his condo. Erik, who had been competing in a tennis tournament in Israel, flew back to Los Angeles and surrendered shortly after. The arrests sent shockwaves through the nation. The grieving sons who had once appeared on TV as victims were now the accused murderers. For many Americans, it was unfathomable. The Menendez family had everything: wealth, opportunity, prestige. Why would two sons annihilate their parents? Prosecutors had a clear answer: greed. The brothers stood to inherit millions from their father's estate. The killings, they argued, were a cold-blooded execution for financial gain. But the defense was preparing a very different narrative, one that would grip the nation in the years to come. The Menendez trial was unlike anything the American legal system had seen before. It wasn't just a trial, it was a spectacle. Courtroom cameras broadcast every tear, every outburst, every shocking testimony. For the first time, Americans could watch a true crime case unfold in real time, day after day. The Menendez brothers became household names, not unlike O.J. Simpson would years later. Lyle and Erik's defense attorneys, led by Leslie Abramson, built their case on a harrowing claim: the brothers were victims of lifelong abuse. From the witness stand, they recounted stories of severe physical, emotional, and sexual abuse at the hands of their father, José. They described a household ruled by fear, where Kitty allegedly turned a blind eye to her son's suffering. Erik, in particular, gave chilling testimony. Through tears, he described being molested by his father for years, beginning when he was just a child. Lyle, too, testified that he was abused and that the violence of the murders was born out of desperation, a belief that their parents were about to kill them to keep the family's secrets buried. Prosecutors dismissed these claims as fabrications. They argued that there was no physical evidence of sexual abuse and no corroborating witnesses. Instead, they painted a portrait of spoiled, entitled sons who murdered their parents to inherit wealth they hadn't earned. The brothers' wild spending spree after the murders was a cornerstone of the state's argument. Why would traumatized victims of abuse indulge in Rolex watches, sports cars, and luxury vacations just weeks after killing their tormentors? To prosecutors, the answer was obvious: because the motive was greed, not survival. The televised trial mesmerized America. Millions tuned in daily, debating around dinner tables and in workplaces. Were the brothers victims or villains?